Hi, Olfath. To start off, can you introduce
Yeah.
yourself? What work do you do, and how does it relate to consumer behavior?
All right. Hi, everyone. Everyone who's listening. I'm Ulfat. I work as a marketing manager currently at Clemson Education India. So I handle India's marketing, mostly organic marketing and social media marketing fronts. Before this, I have also worked as a marketing consultant and a digital marketing consultant for global startups. And my work has mostly been to understand how consumers interact with social media platforms, and how this impacts their behavior, either to buy a product or a service, or to even interact with a brand online, and how this creates a relationship between the consumer and the brand. My main focus is to build brand image and also brand impact via having long-term organic relationships with the consumer on online platforms. I look at platforms like Instagram, I look at platforms like Reddit, LinkedIn, YouTube, and even Google. I've also worked in the SEO space, and that essentially means that we try to get the brand to organically become an authority across search engines like Google, and that's how we influence consumer relationships and also consumer perception of the brand. And that's essentially the kind of work that I've been up to. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, based on your expertise, when we talk about consumer choice, what do you think are some key factors that influence how people decide what to buy? Is it just about price, or are there other things at play as well?
The thing is that price in today's economy, at least in the Indian and most global economies, is becoming, of course, price does play a big part, but it's also becoming a negotiable factor in the sense that you can find multiple products pretty much in the same price window, maybe a dollar or two above or below, but that's about it. So price is becoming more and more flexible as products increase. What does then play a role is how a brand stands out and how a consumer relates to this particular brand. So what is their impression of the brand? How do they find themselves in the brand? Do they think that this is a brand for them? Do they relate to it very personally, or do they not care about it? For example, there's an entire wave that happened last year, um, with this particular brand called Drunk Elephant, and American teenage girls, especially tween girls between the ages of 10 to 12, were using skincare products from Drunk Elephant. Why was this the case? Like this particular brand was mostly catered to adult women, and their skincare needs. But then there was an entire wave of young girls doing it, and there was the entire online and social media wave that captured the interests of these young girls and made them think that this is the exact product they should be using between the ages of 10 to 12 for great skin in the future. And that's why Sephora stores and other stores out there were filled with Drunk Elephant products. So you have to understand that while price and what happens then is that if you start relating to a brand very personally and think that this is the one for me, or this is the one that speaks to my personality, or maybe because I use this brand and I use this product, I get perceived in a certain way, and which starts becoming more and more important for the consumer, and becomes the price becomes more negotiable, more flexible. Tomorrow, if the brand increases the price by a few dollars, people would still go and purchase this because this brand has created an impression. So that's how it plays. It's never it's never one way street. It's never black and white. It's always a mix of multiple factors. Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot of things like online social media waves, personal values, and perhaps even emotions can play a role in what we buy. Like with the Drunk Elephant makeup brand, like you said. I actually also heard a little bit about that and was quite impressed with like the speed at which the trend kind of spread, and also the pervasiveness of the trend as well. I mean, almost every 10-year-old girl was going into Sephora and buying Drunk Elephant, it feels like. So that actually brings me to my next question. What are some of the strategies that businesses actually use to motivate these people to purchase these things? Are there like common tactics that work across different industries? And how do these tactics actually influence your, the consumer brain and the psychology, and how, that motivates you to buy things?
So, so considering I come from a background of organic and social media marketing, the very first thing I would say today is influencers and how to rightly use an influencer for influencer marketing. A lot of the drunk elephant wave and multiple other ways when it comes to products happen because these your audience, these people, they relate to a particular influencer, or they see themselves in that influencer, or they even aspire to be like that influencer. So when that particular influencer comes out and says that this is what they're using and this is what has done great work for them, then it's very, very likely that their audience is also going to go and purchase them or actually listen to their word very seriously. So influencer marketing is at an all-time rise, and statistically it's only going to increase more over the next 10 years or so, and it's going to become even more personal than what it is today. So while earlier brands were fighting to get more relatable to their consumers and making innovative ads and all of that has come down to relatable influencers online. And now brands try to find the best influencer who can be a ambassador of sorts for their product, who can really reflect their product really well, or rather reflect the aspirations coming out of their product really well. And that's how they end up targeting this particular influence. And that's how influencer marketing works for so many brands. So that's a very, very strong strategy that multiple brands use. Of course, there are more other strategies that people use currently. Apart from the influencer strategy, there's another segment called user generated content that's growing a lot. So this is when a person who's a regular, let's say Instagram or TikTok user, not an influencer, but is a user of this a particular product and actually has used them, puts out content saying that this is great content. This is something that I've used. For example, think of any 12 or 13-year-old on TikTok using a drunk elephant sunscreen and saying that my skin is looking great after this. It's very relatable then for their peer group to start thinking that they're onto something right and then purchase more of this product. So a lot of UGC content is also on the rise and will continue to be on the rise, right? We also have many offline tactics. So for example, a very classic one is a grocery store slash a department store tactic where I'm sure you must know about this, where if you enter a particular, like your grocery stores are not set up randomly. They're set up in accordance to particular marketing in mind, especially by certain brands who really want to be on the rise. So if they are targeting, let's say a ramen brand is targeting young kids, or let's say an instant noodle or chips brand is targeting young children, it's very likely that they will keep their products on the lower sections. They won't keep it really high above because they want it to be accessible to the children. So a lot of offline things also go into place. But we have to speak about the online place. I think influencer and UGC content is something that most brands are using today to get their products across. Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating. I think we've all been drawn in by some of those techniques without even realizing it, with how social media platform algorithms and especially influencers can subconsciously influence us. I mean, I think it's probably because of one of the psychological concepts called mere exposure, that kind of like repeated influence makes us susceptible to thinking that something is good, even though we've only just been exposed to it. We don't know for sure if it's good. And also about the placement of products within the stores as well, like you mentioned. I think that definitely could play a role in that way. And speaking of unconscious influences, I've always wondered about pricing strategies. Why do businesses sometimes price things at like $2.99 instead of just rounding up to three? Does that really make a difference in how we think about prices? Sometimes, I mean, if I think about it more consciously, I think then I would realize that it's literally just $3 and that they're doing that. But does that actually have a difference in sort of like the general for the general consumer?
Yes, it does. This is a very, very classic tactic. So this is something that's been around for decades now. Uh, a 299 versus a $3 rate has been around for the longest time, right? And it does play a part. It does play a part in consumer buying patterns because no matter how conscious you get about it, but at the spur of the moment, let's say you're standing at a store and you really like a product and you're trying to budget it in your head and you see a 299 versus a 3, it's very likely that all other factors plus the 299 is going to be the final push for you to buy it. Let's say this was priced at 3.5 or just 3, then you would think, oh, this is a little over my budget. Let's say your budget was 2.5 for this. And in that case, then you will then try to have a conversation within yourself and tell yourself that it's okay, that it's just a little bit more than 2.5, although the price difference is absolutely nothing. But the way look at it in the digital age where shopping patterns have become more online centric is to how discount codes, coupons, and other kinds of flash slices that happen during sales and other things really work. So let's say that you go to an Amazon to buy something, or even a Sephora to buy something online, and you will see that you have a product that is priced at 20.2 or 20.5 uh, regularly. And during a sale, it's just and during the sale, you're given a coupon code saying that you can buy this particular product at 40% less. And you go there and you see that it's only priced at about 18.5 or a 19 at this point. It's not really 40% less, but it's the illusion of getting the 40% less that's going to get you to buy this particular product. It's going to make you think that this is the cheapest that this particular product will ever be. So hence you're going to go ahead and buy it. So it's very important to see how these flash any kind of crashes in price or sales or anything of that sort really works. It's never really a big 50% sale. It's never really a big 40% sale. It's always something more than that because there are margins that need to be looked at over there as well. So it's absolutely, but it plays a role. Things go out of stock and people do end up buying this because this is what they end up thinking this is the cheapest it'll get. And this is the cheapest rate for it. So yeah.
Mhm. So it seems like because of all these influences trying to rope us into consuming all these products, I've actually noticed a trend that kind of glorifies overconsumption with all those Shein, Temu hauls, and especially websites that try to create the illusion of saving money with all those discount codes, like you said. What are some things that you think that teens and college students especially, because I know that that population is quite susceptible and vulnerable to these influences, especially. What are some things that we should keep in mind when making purchasing decisions? And how could we balance between the needs and the wants?
I think the biggest thing to keep in mind right now, considering, and this is a very personal opinion, but considering the global situation, is to see how much your consumption can affect the planet. Because overconsumption, it's very obvious that it's making things very, very unsustainable and very polluted on a very large scale. All these hauls, all these buying 50 outfits at once, and then buying 50 outfits again the next month is not helping anyone. It's absolutely exploitative. It's also absolutely difficult for the planet and the environment. So that's obviously one thing to keep in mind. But a more realistic picture is to understand how much you really need at any given point. what you have to understand is that every time you do try to interact with an influencer who's trying to sell you something, as in if you're going to any of the links that they've mentioned, any of the, or even if you just have a look at their content or interact with their content, it's very likely that you're going to see more content that is focused like this. So for example, if you look at, and that's how the algorithm works, right? That's how our social media algorithms work. So, for example, if you have a look at an influencer who is trying to sell you something off Shein or something off Temu, or showing you a haul, and you like or comment or engage with that content, it's very likely that you will see 10 other posts or 10 other reels just focused on that again and again and again. And if you are exposing yourself to this over and over again, you're causing a repetition in your brain waves, in your behavior patterns, which is going to push you to thinking that this is the right way of doing things. So our brains learn by repetition. They create habits out of repetition. And if you are going to keep repeating this content to yourself, or if you're going to keep exposing yourself to this, you are going to think that this is the right thing. You are going to get into a bubble of sorts where you start believing that this is the correct way to go about things, or this is the better way to go about things. So it's very important to have breaks in how you consume your social media. It's also very important to mindfully consume your social media. Be conscious when someone is being genuine versus when they're selling something to you. Try to read between the lines and see what is the versus what is a paid ad. Although this is very obvious out there, but it's very easy to miss out what is paid versus what is actually genuine and what is organic. Second thing is, I would advise that obviously try to cut social media as much as you can when it comes to these things. At least you can use it to interact with your peers. You can use it to have conversations, begin dialogues, make forums, all of that. But when it comes to following pages and influencers who do sell you things, or who do try to keep selling you things, try to keep that to a minimum. And I would encourage everyone to actually go and start buying from shops and malls and offline stores again instead of online purchasing, because the other thing that online purchasing does is that it doesn't neurologically satisfy you as much as going into a store and buying. And also what it does is that it leaves you with um, multiple, like thousands and thousands and thousands of options that you can buy from, which is not always the healthiest thing, because then you can either spend more than you have originally planned to, because you think that, okay, if I buy two more things, I'm going to get this 40%, 50% discount on this particular online thing. And then instead of buying one thing, you're buying three things that you don't need in the first place. So be very mindful about how you're buying online. And if buying online is becoming a challenge for you, let's say you always end up spending more than you have planned when you purchase things online, go to a physical store, pick up exactly what you need, and then exit the store. Try to be mindful of these things, because it's nothing it's nothing that isn't going to harm you. Like, it's either going to harm you financially if you aren't mindful about it. It's also going to harm you mentally as well, because all these things take a big mental load on you. You end up getting really stressed out trying to figure out between the thousands of options online. You also end up thinking that you're missing out on things if you don't have the thing that an influencer you like has, or your peers who are putting up content have. So it's important to tell yourself what you need and what works for you at every given point. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's really great advice, just in general, for anyone who wants to buy things, to really consider if they really need it, or, if it's just simply a want that maybe an influencer is trying to rope you into buying it. Yeah, I think we could all be more mindful of our use of social media and how that can subconsciously affect us. I think overall, that's just really great advice. Thank you so much, Ulfath, for today. And this is actually the end of the interview.